Fantastique. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to be starting in just a few minutes as we let people into the event. We've got quite a few participants registered for the webinar today. Certainly hoping that all of you will be able to make the event. And let's just give it a few more moments. All the way up to 45 participants for now. A little bit longer. Again, thank you for joining. Let's just give it maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And then we'll jump right into the event. Bonjour tout le monde. Bienvenue à l'événement. Nous allons attendre encore quelques minutes. Le temps de laisser tous les participants d'arriver. Nous sommes maintenant 57 participants. We're up to 57 participants. We have quite a few registrations. Looking forward to seeing all of you. Right. A few more moments. Some of you may notice on the top right of this welcome screen that we're going to be running a few polls using Slido. You can right away take out your camera and point to the QR code on the home screen right there. It should show a link that you can click and you will get an opportunity to participate in the polls that way. Otherwise, we're going to be sharing in the chat box, and we already have done so, a clickable link that will also take you to the Slido poll. Otherwise, you can go to slido.com and enter code 3285442. All right, very good. C'est bon. Et comme vous voyez dans le coin supérieur droit de l'écran, on va poser quelques questions avec l'outil Slido. Vous pouvez pointer votre caméra vers le code QR qui est dans le coin supérieur droit, ce qui va vous donner, vous afficher un lien qui est cliquable, que vous devrez pouvoir tout simplement, lequel vous donnera accès, dans le fond, au sondage qu'on va faire, aux questions qu'on va vous poser pendant l'événement. Okay, so I think we've got quite a few of you have joined already, so I think we're going to get going. All right, so I think right away, well, welcome to the event. It's really a pleasure to have all of you. Thank you so much for joining the event today. It's really quite a delight for us to have the opportunity to share these two case studies that hopefully will help us all have more inclusive and equitable cities. But the event is open to municipalities, academia, and just about anybody who wanted to join. So we do have quite a few nonprofit organizations joining today as well. So without further ado, let me just jump a little bit more into the next slide, which gives you a few more specific details about how to use Slido. And this will also allow other participants to perhaps join as we go more formally over these instructions. So again, as just mentioned, we're running Slido to run polls. You have instructions right there. The link that's provided at option 1 is available in the chat box. You can scan the code with your camera. And of course, you can go to slido.com and enter code 3285442 directly. So I think without further ado, we're just going to maybe do a first test and try out the tool. The first poll we're going to run is to ask you where you're located. And as I move to the next slide, you should now see the poll being open on your phones. I believe that should be working. And as you all, as I give you a few moments to tell us a little bit more about where you're from, you can type your city name or your province as you wish, or your traditional lands. I'll just start by officially introducing myself. My name is Jean-Philippe. I go by Jean-Philippe Valois. I go by the pronoun he. I am a middle-aged Caucasian of mainly French and Italian origin, with a beard and still a little bit of hair. I was born and am speaking to you today from Tiohtià:ke, or Montreal, on the traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka, which is the Mohawk Nation. So let me just move to the next slide here, which should reveal the answers to the poll. Wow, this is very exciting. We have really people from everywhere. This is great. We're really great to have an opportunity to have so many of you today from so many different places. Let me just give this a few more seconds, and then we'll jump into a few housekeeping notes. But very good. Okay, excellent. I think the poll is complete. Very good. So let me just jump to the next slide. Whoops. So just a few housekeeping notes before we get going. The event is recorded. As you know, polls are run using Slido. I will repeat the QR code in the top right corner if you didn't have a time to set that up on most screens where we're going to be asking for polls. There's just 2 more questions coming. If you have any questions, please use them in the chat box, and we'll provide. We'll repeat your questions during the Q&A, which will come after the 2 case studies today. Any questions asked in French will be translated. And yes, slides will, at least my slides, but I believe all slides will be shared with participants after the event. So just go quickly over a quick agenda, just readjust my screen here. So today's agenda is going to be a foreword by our VP EDI. I'm going to say a few words about what we're doing with municipalities across Canada. Then quickly we'll jump into the case studies. And after the 2 case studies, we'll have about 10-15 minutes questions and answers, and maybe a discussion. And my colleague Anaïs is going to be moderating those questions. And then I'm very excited to have a chance to tell you about a bit of a pilot initiative that we're going to be running this after the event today. I think this should be fun, and this is in relation to the survey questions that we asked. So I think this will be good. So without further ado, it's really a pleasure for me to introduce my colleague Angeline. Angeline is the VP of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion at Mitacs. She provides strategic leadership on EDI Indigenous initiatives to advance inclusive innovation in Canada. And prior to joining Mitacs, Angeline held the role of Director Consulting at the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, where she helped a wide range of employers identify barriers and develop measurable strategies to advance EDI. Angeline previously served as professional development lawyer at the Ontario Bar Association, where she launched her first series of inclusive leadership programs designed to accelerate a culture shift in the legal profession and justice systems. She holds an LLB from the University of Birmingham School and a BA from the University of Toronto. Angeline, all yours.
Merci beaucoup, Jean-Philippe, and bonjour tout le monde. So as Jean-Philippe mentioned, my name is Angeline Susapale. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a South Asian woman of Sri Lankan Tamil ancestry in my 30-somethings. I'll leave that as a mystery. I have dark brown skin, wear glasses, and have straight black hair. I am a settler on this land, and I'm joining you today from Toronto, which is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples today. So I'd like to just quickly share a bit about what we're doing at Mitacs. Obviously, this is an important topic, which is why we're all here today. So on our end, there's lots of reasons why we've prioritized Mitacs. You can read all about it within our strategic plan, which was launched in the fall of 2021. So I can share the link to that later in the chat box. And really what you'll notice is that we've embedded EDI throughout our entire strategy. And so to support this strategic plan, my role was created. And over the past 2 years, we've now built a team of 5 EDI team members. So we have an Indigenous Relations Advisor, EDI Advisor, and 2 EDI specialists. Currently, our area of focus is ensuring that we're walking the talk at Mitacs. So we've done quite a bit in terms of our internal practices, our hiring, really working on our culture, measuring and tracking who's in our workforce at all levels, including the board, and looking at inclusion experiences of our diverse employees. We're also looking at how we can change our systems. When we talk about EDI at Mitacs, what we're really thinking about is research and innovation. So how do we ensure that research and innovation is done by everyone, for everyone? That's a very broad goal. So we know that change starts with us, which is why we've dedicated time to really work on ourselves, looking at our processes, our policies, etc. But we're also developing key initiatives for equity deserving groups in the ecosystem so that we can reduce barriers and increase participation. So we've launched a 3-year inclusive innovation action plan. It's very lengthy. So again, I will share the link to that in the chat box. One thing to note is that in addition to, these great documents and great plans that we have launched out into the world, we're really focused on holding ourselves accountable. So at the end of each fiscal year, we plan to publicly publish our progress with KPIs to demonstrate change. So to demonstrate new initiatives, but also the impact of that change. So how has it shifted the landscape? So that's a little bit about us. And without further ado, I'll pass it back to you, Jean-Philippe.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Angeline. Very appreciate it. Let me jump into the next slide quickly. So I just want to go over a little bit about us, just so, of course, everybody in the room can get a sense for what it is, what we're doing, and why this is important to us. Today is the 4th in a series of webinars that we're running on municipal innovation. Really, our objective with these webinars is to showcase key projects through firsthand testimonies from actual stakeholders. And hopefully these will illustrate the areas in which our partners were able to benefit from what Mitacs has to offer. And we hope today that you'll come away with a sense of how your municipality or nonprofit organization or academia can work together a more systemic approach to collaboration and help you work together towards developing more innovative practices and hopefully undertake transformative projects. So quickly moving over to the next slide. Whoops, sorry about that. Just for clarity, we are a nonprofit organization. We're present all across Canada. Our goal is to foster innovation. We've been doing this for just about 24 years. We've come to be quite a large team, and we manage quite substantial amounts of money at Mitacs. We're funded by all levels of government. I am part of a team of, we're 350 plus employees at Mitacs. I think we're nearly at 400, but I'm part of a team of 115 advisors. We're present all across Canada, and our role is really to engage with partners of all kinds, municipalities, nonprofits, private companies, of course, and academia to help you better understand how you can use and benefit from the programs. And through these 24 years, we've worked with so many partner organizations, as you see the numbers on your screen across Canada, and we're proud to have achieved and been able to run a program that really is able to reach large, medium, and small organizations across Canada. So maybe just a quick words. We understand that municipalities face really complex challenges more and more, and we're really happy to announce, many of you know, but if you didn't, that the programs have been open now for 2 years, 2 municipalities, and over that time we've been able to support more than 330 projects with 160 municipalities. Many of those projects being focused on social sciences and humanities. And perhaps mostly, a lot of those projects, nearly 60%, I was running through the statistics again just recently, are valued at $25,000 or less. So it's possible to support very large initiatives at Mitacs, but most of the projects we support, at least with municipalities, are small initiatives. And I thought I'd share just a few more statistics about what we've been doing with municipalities these past 2 or 3 years. So as you can see on your left, those are let's call them the sectors that are being addressed by the projects that we're supporting with municipalities. And so on the top right of the graph on the left, that blue chunk there, right, is projects that we've undertaken in, in the fields of sustainability and environment. But on the middle, the red part there, that is for public service policy and governmental projects that bear mostly like 16% of what we funded. And then as you go around, we see a lot more projects in environmental sciences and technology, but also social innovation. So there's quite a variety of projects that we're supporting at Mitacs with municipalities. And on the top right, another interesting statistics is the size of municipality that's undertaking these projects. So mostly we're supporting these projects with large municipalities. So those are municipalities that range with a population going from 100,000 to 1 million people. But we also do quite a few projects with small municipalities, which is sometimes maybe not the most intuitive thing to think about. But of course, we are also running a lot of projects with the larger municipalities in Canada. And on the bottom right, you'll see the disciplines that are mostly called upon in those projects. And as you can see, one of the big ones, the biggest one, is social sciences, humanities, and arts, which is not quite the typical statistic that we see for the average Mitacs project with private corporations. So interesting statistics to look at. And the city that has been doing the most municipal Mitacs projects in these 2 years is Edmonton. And you might have been able to tell that from that background image there of Walterdale Bridge in Edmonton. So just before we move on to the case studies, just a couple more words, just again for clarity. Anybody listening today that's not quite sure what it is we're talking about. So just for 100% clarity, what we do at Mitacs is we offer grants. We offer a flexible funding system. I'd rather think about it as a funding system, a tool that allows you to undertake transformative projects. But in short, honestly, those are grants. But perhaps the second big thing we do is we can facilitate connections with academia. We can help you get in touch. We can recommend experts. We can advise you on what's an eligible and admissible project at Mitacs. We know a lot about colleges and universities. We try to simplify things for you. I know it's not super always easy. Perhaps more for municipalities. Sometimes this innovation with colleges and universities is not something that is very much super common yet. So we can help with that. And I'd say that perhaps is our biggest strength. We're here really to help organizations and academia work together. And lastly, just a quick word talking about organizations, municipalities, nonprofits, private companies, and hospitals are admissible at Mitacs. So in just a few short moments, my colleague Fatima will be introducing the first panel. So we're going to go over the 2 case studies of the day. We're going to jump into a Q&A. But then I'd very much appreciate if you could stay with us for the last part of the event, which is we're going to be revealing the survey results, those questions that we asked you when you first registered for the event today. And we're very much looking forward to telling you about a pilot initiative that we think will be of interest to you and in which we hope you will be participating. So before I pass it to my colleague Fatima, I would like to run one more poll, especially to give our speakers a sense of who's in the room today and how familiar you are with the university collaborations. We're opening up the poll right now to one more question to ask you if you have been involved in a collaborative research project before, and whether it was with a university or college or both. So I think it's a multiple choice question. So if you haven't done the Slido thing yet, use your camera, point at the QR code that's in the bottom left, or go to slido.com, punch in that code, or click the link that's been provided in the chat box. And on this, I think I will maybe leave it to Fatima. Fatima, are you there? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we'll just give it a few more seconds to let people answer here. And then Fatima, I will move to the next slide. And I think we're going to show our speakers. Maybe just give it a second. And all right, so we have quite a few people in the room today who have worked with university, few less so with colleges, but at least 25% that have not yet worked with academia. So hopefully the webinar today will also be useful to you. So on this, I think I will move to the next slide and pass it over to my colleague Fatima, who will be introducing the first case study today from the FCM and the University of Regina. Fatima, all yours.
Thank you very much, JP. Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima, and I'm a Persian woman from Persia, Iran. And I'm from Regina, University of Regina. I have my office at the University of Regina on Treaty 4 of Treaty. And so I did my master and PhD at the University of Regina, and now I'm working for the University of Regina. So I'm senior advisor from Mitacs, but dedicated to University of Regina. It means that I help to develop the projects with the profs at the University of Regina and the students with our partners to be funded by Mitacs programs. So the first case study that we are going to introduce here through our by our speakers has been done last year at the University of Regina on gender parity, understanding the policies and procedures that foster achievement of gender parity in Canadian local governments. This project has been completed by our master students at that time, Anastasia Shechuk, and under the supervision of Dr. Jim Fernie, a prof at the University of Regina, with our valuable partner, FCM, and Stephanie Hoey helped us to develop and complete this project. So at this time, I would like to give a very short biography introduction to our speakers, starting from Stephanie Hoey and from FCM. Stephanie is an accomplished gender equality specialist with a long-standing commitment to sustainable economic development and empowerment. She has over 20 years of experience implementing programs that promote gender equality and empower equity deserving people. For the last 5 years, Ms. Hoey has been working with FCM to promote equitable and inclusive leadership at the municipal level to foster a more enabling environment so all voices can be heard and welcome at the local level. Stephanie holds a master's in international relations from the University of Kent in Canterbury and BA from the University of Western Ontario. Welcome, Stephanie, and thank you very much for attending. The next speaker would be Anastasia Shechuk. And Anastasia is a dynamic and accomplished project manager and consultant, certified change management and strategic development specialist with a Master of Public Policy degree. With experience in inclusive and equitable practices, strategic development, and newcomer integration, Anastasia has left a lasting impact on various fronts, including funding strategic equity initiatives that have positively impacted over 2,500 individuals. This year, working with SUMA, Saskatchewan Urban Municipality Association, as an inclusive government consultant, Anastasia led the development of new inclusive policies for over 150 municipalities. Currently, Anastasia is working as a manager of the sector-specific employment initiative at the World Skills Employment Center in Ottawa. Welcome, Anastasia, and thank you for attending. And our last speaker for the first case study is Dr. Jim Fernie. Dr. Jim Fernie is a professor and Regina Director of Johnson Triama Graduate School of Public Policy and a joint initiative of the University of Regina and University of Saskatchewan. He has published and taught on themes such as political parties, education policy, Canadian politics, and institutional change. His most recent book is Faith, Rights, and Choice, The Politics of Religion's School in Canada, which received an honorable mention for the Seymour Martin Lipset Book Award of the American Political Science Association 2023. A co-investigator in the SHREC-funded comparative education policy network. He is currently PI on a SHREC Insight grant investigating the fiscal, governance, and public opinion impacts of school and parental choice. Welcome, Dr. Jim Fernie, and thank you very much for attending this webinar. So because the time is very limited, I would like to pass it over to our speakers for the first case study to introduce the first case study to our attendees. Thank you, speakers, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Fatima. I'll kick us off, given that that was the order you introduced us. My name is Stephanie Hoey. I am, my pronouns are she, her, or elle. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. I am a 40-somethings white woman with shoulder-length brown hair, and I have the pleasure of joining you today from the unceded and unsurrendered Algonquin and Anishinaabe lands, where we have the privilege to live, play, and work. So I will pass it over to Anastasia, who will be sharing her screen to introduce herself as well. Who'll be doing most of the speaking because she did most of the work.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Stephanie. My name is Anastasia Shechuk, and I use pronouns she, her. I am a young Ukrainian woman, and I have a short, dark hair. And I'm journeying from the same indigenous lands as Stephanie. And I'll pass it to Jim.
Very quickly, thanks. Jim Fernie here. I guess 40-ish seems to be the word that's going around with short blonde hair. And I'm joining from Regina, which is Treaty 4 in the traditional homelands of the Métis Mischief Nation.
Okay, I'm sharing my presentation. Can everyone see it? Okay. I'm so happy to be presenting this work today. It was a great work that been done by Stephanie from Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Dr. Jim Fernie from Johnson Shioma Graduate School of Public Policy at the University of Regina, and this was the Mitacs Accelerate Research Internship. So today we will speak about the following things. At first, we will talk about how this internship was set up. Then we'll share with you some research details and fundings, and then we'll share conclusion and our takeaways from this experience, as well as some advice on successful collaboration for anyone who would like to do a similar kind of internship. Okay, and okay, so how this collaboration was born. So as I was doing my Master of Public Policy, and it was a research-focused degree. So that was something that was in front of me. I needed to write my thesis and do research, but at the same time, I was, of course, looking to have great experience while doing that. And of course, it's all that I'm helpful to have some funding for paying tuition. And as I was Mitacs Global Link alumna. For those who don't know, Global Link is another research internship that Mitacs has. So I was alumna of that program. That's how I knew about Mitacs. And therefore, I went on their website and searched for more opportunities. And that's how I found out that Mitacs has Mitacs Accelerate Research Internship. For those who don't know what it is, very briefly, is that there is an organization and they have a research need. On one side. On another side, there is academia with a student and professor who are also interested to do research. And Mitacs works as a bridge to bring these parties together, that they would be able to do great research. And that's how research internship happens. For me, Mitacs Accelerate Internship was really great experience and an opportunity to do valuable, immediately applicable research, just having great experience, and as well as funding. And also it helped me then to use the same research and convert it into my thesis. Okay, and then next, I'll pass it to Stephanie when she will speak about the program that this research was supporting.
Thank you so much. So I have the pleasure of speaking a little bit about the Canadian Women on Local Leadership Project, which is the project that we manage and that we were able to integrate this research into. CanWIL is a small women and gender equality funded project that's done over 3 years, and it really is looking at promoting more inclusive leadership at the municipal level, with a focus on not only attracting women of diverse backgrounds, and for the definition of women, for the sake of our project, that includes all folks who identify as such, including trans, non-binary, gender fluid, and other folks who might identify as such. And recognizing that there are a number of systemic barriers that are really preventing folks from stepping forward into these leadership spaces. This was based on a previous project toward parity, where we really had identified a number of the systemic barriers and put them into key categories. But we wanted to look at how do we attract, but how do we also retain these talented individuals at the municipal leadership level? And so we have the 3 components. One is looking at how do we bring more Indigenous, prioritization on Indigenous, Black, racialized, young people and members of the 2S LGBT community, recognizing that you can have compounding identities within that one, and the barriers tend to have compounding effects, making it harder for those individuals to really assume the leadership positions effectively. But then we recognize that attracting them is only one part of it. We need to have a more enabling environment so that when folks do step forward, that they have a softer landing. Because the reality is many of those barriers that prevent people from stepping forward still exist when they get there, but then they have the expectations of their constituents or their committees, depending on what definition of leadership they are taking. And so we're really looking at the enabling environment, looking at elements of gender-based violence, harassment, racism, misogyny, and so on and so forth. And then the third component of the project was really looking at knowledge sharing and sharing of best practices, where this particular research initiative fits beautifully. But because it's such a small initiative, our project is quite small, we couldn't prioritize research. So when my director came to me and said, we have this opportunity to have firsthand research conducted that could highlight some of these best practices, we really jumped at the opportunity. And we would not have been able to do this firsthand research without the Mitacs research funding. So it really was a great opportunity to bring together a research need, a talented researcher, and the academic backing to be able to really move forward with this. So that's kind of where this research situates in our broader project. So I pass it back over to Anastasia, to talk a little bit more about what she found. Keeping in mind that for folks who might not recognize FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, is a nonprofit organization that brings together about 90% of municipalities across Canada. And about 60% of those municipalities are smaller municipalities, which echoes very closely to Jean-Philippe's presentation at the beginning with the division of size of municipalities. And so recognizing rural, remote, smaller municipalities have unique challenges and opportunities. That was a really big aspect of our decision about which municipalities we chose to research. So that's why we wanted to go with the mid-sized municipalities and really looking at what ones we could hold up as examples, because we find that municipalities really latch on to and hold up other examples because it helps them implement more effectively within their communities, almost buying down risk, if you will, to be able to implement newer initiatives in their communities. So, Anastasia.
Thank you, Stephanie. As Stephanie mentioned, there are many aspects of research and information that's needed for municipalities to support gender representation and diversity. After our discussions, we decided to focus on the internal governance policies and procedures, specifically on inclusive policies and procedures created for councils. That was the focus of our research. And this was quite not that much research area. So it was interest for us to go into it and really understand this new phenomenon of these policies that just started appearing in the municipalities. And as okay, and now introducing how the research specifically was set up. So it was an exploratory qualitative case study of 3 municipalities that have developed inclusive governance policies for council. They were Yellowknife in Northwest Territories, Kamloops in BC, and Moncton in New Brunswick. And as it was already mentioned, we decided to focus on mid-sized municipalities that the findings that we have are the most relevant for the majority of municipalities. And there were 2 stages of data collection, a documentary review and 10 semi-structured interviews with former and current mayors, councillors, city staffers, and committee members. And the research question that we formulated were, what inclusive policies and procedures have municipalities developed, and how have municipalities developed them? And here I also want to mention that this research was not focusing on the topic of changing council culture. We were focusing on the policies and procedures themselves. Jim, did you want to add something here?
I had maybe kind of 2 quick things here, and then say a little bit at the end. I think the ability to do this research is, when you put it in 4 bullet points, it looks pretty clean. It's actually a type of work that would be difficult to do kind of just from the academic side of the house, because what the Mitacs partnership and working with FCM enabled us to do was to have a kind of dense knowledge of what they were feeling in the field around inclusion and what the barriers were, a really good network of people that Anastasia could reach out to interview, and kind of a sense of where the interesting case studies were. So for a bunch of reasons we don't need to get into, this category of city, I think, is pretty crucial to inclusion. If you think of the old mantra, the higher, the fewer, there's a lot of people who end up in provincial or national government who come up through these places, but they're very, very understudied. And so by cooperating, we were able to blend kind of an academic research piece with FCM's in-depth knowledge of the sector in a way that was actually achievable for a master's thesis that was supposed to be done in 8 months. And we couldn't have done that without the support to bring things together. So I'll hand it back now.
Thank you, Jim. And now over to the overview of research findings. During this research, we were able to collect detailed information about different types of inclusive policies, and even discovering several new policies for councils that before were not in practice and were not described as much in the research. And those were remote meetings procedure and remote parental caregiver leave, to give you a few examples. And also we were able to identify the biggest driving forces for inclusive policy creation, and among them were the turnover of new city employees and councillors with different lived experiences. COVID-19 was a big factor in it, as well as provincial territorial government mandates and public issues and scandals. And to give you one quick example, in the case of Yellowknife, what was interesting is that their code of conduct was developed more than 10 years ago. And however, it was quite a basic document that they've been having for quite a long time. And but then when they had a scandal, and then when in 2018, they needed to investigate it and really look into that, and they went back to that code of conduct, they realized that there were no set procedures there that they could follow. And this was a clear indicator for them of the need to be updating their code of conduct and trying to really make it detailed, actionable, and thorough. And what's even more interesting that after they implemented the updated code of conduct in 2018, they had another scandal that happened in 2021. So they were able then to see how the procedures that they set up in 2018 working in practice. And they said that they were happy with that, as now they had a foundation with which how they could resolve this kind of situations. And they felt that the public appreciated more clear structure in those procedures and transparency. So this is just one of the examples. And later we will share with you in the chat links to this research. And if you'd be interested, you can read about more examples of these case studies. Okay, and to the research impact. As it was an exploratory study of quite a new phenomenon, and we are happy that this research initiated expanding the knowledge base of inclusive policies for councils. We managed to enrich the existing data as well as identify and describe some new types of policies. This was a great contribution of case studies and examples and the new data about the processes of how municipalities create these policies that is helpful from academic perspective, but also in the immediately applicable for FCM and all the municipalities. As well as in this research, I was able to identify best practices for the development of these policies. And what was interesting is that we found that many of the policies that we studied had the potential to fostering not only gender representation, but a fuller diversity on council. And now moving to the conclusion. So here is a great photo of all of us. I believe it was a SUMA conference. And here's another photo, me making a presentation. I believe that was FCM conference, previous photo. And this one was the Saskatchewan Urban Municipal Association workshop that I was conducting on already furthering the research that was done and now applying it and sharing the lessons learned with mayors across the province of Saskatchewan. So on my side, that was really a great experience that helped me to do a very important research. I was able to have it formed as my thesis and get my degree. And also it was incredible feeling to be able to do research and then right away seeing it being implemented in contributing to communities across Canada. And that's what was so great. And I'll also pass it on to Stephanie or Jim if they want to share a few words here before we move on to our advice to you about how to manage similar kind of research internships.
So just to echo Anastasia's excellent comments, this would not have been possible without the Mitacs research. And I did want to give a shout out to Miriam Hababi, who is on the call as well, who was instrumental in making this happen in terms of, being able to support both myself and Anastasia on this work. Having case studies and dealing with municipalities and being able to hold up best practices is so incredibly critical. And this is not something a team of two would have been able to do. So being able to tap into a more structured and academic process was incredibly valuable. It's one that we are able to highlight in our Inclusive Municipal Library, which I'll put a link to in the chat in just a moment. So the Canwell project has been able to do a curated list of best practices and examples and of a variety of different issues that we feel will promote inclusive actions at the municipal level, of which this will be added into that library shortly. I don't think we were able to get it fully completed and translated and uploaded prior to today's webinar, but check back frequently and I'm sure you'll find it. And I just wanted to recognize that these kind of processes really allow for a credibility that sometimes is not necessarily accorded to other case studies, because it is grounded with that academic background. So with that, I will hand over to our academic guru, Dr. Fernie.
Yeah, so it may be Anastasia, if you could just advance us to the next slide, what I have to say might make sense, and then I don't speak twice. I think from the academic side, there's a shifting that went on. So as you could tell from my introduction, I'm not really a gender scholar or a municipal one. So I brought kind of a knowledge of the craft of research and research methods expertise to the table. Other people on the master's committee brought different pieces and some gender EDI expertise, but it was the type of project I would not have felt comfortable supervising on my own if it hadn't been within this ecosystem, because it was just that little bit out of what I knew. And so I do think there has to be communications and kind of respectful communications about the different expertise, the different types of expertise at the table, and a kind of flexibility that the outcomes or the process are going to look a little bit different. I think it's actually more rigorous. I think the case studies got off the ground faster and kind of had a deeper set of knowledge than if we'd set it up in a traditionally academic way. And that is part of what led to the impact that Anastasia and Stephanie were speaking to. But it does mean if you're one of the academics on the call, you've got to kind of shift the notion of the type of expertise you're bringing to the table a little bit. The second thing I'd say in terms of success is this was something that was very much driven by Anastasia recognizing both the opportunity of Mitacs. She was the first Mitacs intern I'd worked with, but also recognizing the gap in the literature around this piece. And so it really, this particular case study was driven by the student. I think there are other ways of getting into Mitacs programs that might be driven by the supervisor or driven by the community partnership. So we're working as a school on one right now with the Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association, for example, where we think it'll be a kind of more institutional collaboration. But as I said, it does mean kind of shifting your sense of your own role if you're on the academic side of the house. Back to you.
Thank you, Jim. I'll mention here from the student perspective, as Jim already briefly mentioned, this was my idea, this internship, because I knew about Mitacs before. Jim was not familiar with that. So just for all the students out there, I want to share that it's possible, even if your supervisor doesn't know about Mitacs, but you now know about it. You can just research it. You can reach out to your Mitacs advisor at the university, learn about it, and then bring your supervisor to the table, share with them what Mitacs is about. And hopefully from that conversation, there may be an opportunity to do an internship. And also with searching a partner organization, Mitacs has a list of partner organizations that I think you're familiar on the website. However, it's also possible to find a partner organization yourself. This was the case, this was our case when I reached out to some of my network and I shared that I wanted to do this research, and that's how I found Stephanie and FCM. And then I also shared with them what Mitacs is about, because I believe Stephanie can correct me, but it seems like it was also her first experience of Mitacs internship like this. So it's all possible. And one thing that I'll emphasize a lot is important to have it successful. This kind of internship, it's important to have a lot of communication, because there are different stakeholders that have a bit different priorities and the views. So it's just important to find that common ground and be very clear about the goals and expectation of this collaboration, what expectation of this research, but also expectations how this collaboration should be working, how communication should be working, that to make it successful. But yeah, it's all possible. And Stephanie, did you want to add any concluding words before we wrap up?
Sure. I would just say that, as you say, with it all comes back to the communications and defining the scope and refining the scope into something that is manageable, because you do have in some places very different competing priorities. And so it took us a little bit of time to find kind of that center of the Venn diagram where the researchers' interest level, the needs of the project, and what could be an academic research paper really overlapped in an effective methodology. And so it required that effort, but at the same time, I think it really added to a contribution where everyone ended up having benefits associated to them, whether it's the academic institution, the student, or the partner. And so that triple bottom line impact, I think, is worth that additional effort it takes at the front end to really kind of define a project clearly. And that communication is critical. I do notice that there is one question in the chat. I don't know if you want me to jump in and answer that, or if we're going to hold those till the end.
I think they will be in the end. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And the most important aspect that I'm just so incredibly happy about for this project is that it's getting disseminated and implemented in many various ways, and will be more in the future. So it's just a great example of the impact that is reaching wide and beyond. And thank you so much, everyone, for your attention. Please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or via email. We would love to connect with you if you have questions about this research or internship. And we are very much looking forward to answering your questions later at the webinar. And also in the chat, I will share the links to this thesis, FCM Canvas program, and something else that you can look at. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anastasia. Jean-Philippe, did you want to go over something? Okay.
All good, all yours.
I didn't see you come in, so I took the lead. Thank you so much, Anastasia, Jim, and this is Holy. I retain your last name. That's a fascinating case studies, and we don't have any questions yet in the chat, but please populate the chat, and we will address those questions at the end. There's
one question from Gilbert E.
Yeah,
about the outcomes.
Yeah, we will bring it back to at the end, of course. Thank you. So let me introduce myself. My name is Anaïs Détal. I'm an anthropologist, and I work as a senior counselor at Mitacs. I am 40-ish, Caucasian women with brown hair and glasses. Today, I am speaking to you from the unceded territory of Wabanaki people in the city around the mountains Wigwomadensis, also called Mont Saint-Hilaire. For this second case study, let me introduce you to Corinne Asselin and Olivier Riffon. Corinne Asselin has been Director of Development at the municipality of Petit Saguenay for almost 3 years. Originally from the region, she went to study communications and political science in Montreal before returning to settle in her village. She is interested in the social and environmental issues of our time, while being involved in local and community projects that give meaning to her daily life. She is pursuing a part-time master's degree in political science, which focuses on the implementation of participatory governance in rural areas. Thank you, Corinne, for joining us. And Olivier Riffon is a professor of eco-consulting at the Université du Québec à Chicoutimi. With a PhD in regional development, he's a specialist in tools and approaches for implementing sustainable development, social and ecological transition, education relating to sustainable development, and the integration of participatory and collaborative methods in process of social and ecological transition. So thank you very much for joining us, and I'll let you to it.
Thank you, Anaïs. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure for us to be here today. We are talking to you from the region of Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. We're talking from an unceded territory of the Nous people, mainly of Maastricht. I might also say that I'm talking to you from my home, where I'm also taking care of 2 sick children. So I hope that everything will be calm and quiet for the next 15 minutes. And we might say that we don't have that much occasion to speak English in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. You will find out that we are two French-speaking persons. So excuse us for maybe some hesitations or mistakes during our presentation. So I will let Corinne start and introduce our project, and I will take the lead after that.
Tu mets la présentation, Olivier?
Oui.
Parfait. Je peux merci. Je vais me présenter en même temps. I'm going to introduce myself at the same time. So I'm a woman in my 30s. I go by she, her pronouns, short brown hair. Thank you for having us. Merci de nous avoir aujourd'hui. So we have here a little presentation with mostly picture because we wanted to for you to have a visual image while we'll be talking about our project. So you can see right now the aerial view of our village, Petit Saguenay, which is a small village of 635 people. So you can see in the next slide, I think I put a little map there. So we are located 5 hours from Montreal, 2 hours from, oh, maybe the next one, yeah, 2 hours from Quebec City. So you can see that we are quite far from the urban areas. That means that we are very used to fend for ourselves. We have a lot of dynamics of mutual aid, entrepreneurship, and participatory culture. We also have problems of digitalization also in the past recent years. So that's why we've been working on new ways, like creative ways to develop the village. So if you just can go back one slide, I'm going to give you a bit of the plan of our, just go back in time. I'm sorry. Yeah, the bit of how we're going to introduce our project. So the first part was me telling you a little bit more about the village. Then I will give Olivier to speak about the internship and how everything went by, how everything unfolded, and the result and the limitations also of the project. And at the end, I'm just going to come back with the effect that this project had in our municipality from our perspective. So as I said a bit in earlier, we are used to have participatory practices. That's why I put a few pictures. If you can go by, Olivier, to the next one. We had, yeah, exactly. We are joined in the Atelier des Savoirs Partagés, which is a shared knowledge workshop. I can translate it to, which is a network of a rural municipality to really help each other develop ourselves and grow in innovative ways. So we have been supported by 3 researchers from the UQAC University. We do visits and conferences and activities with other rural municipalities around Quebec. So that's to say that we are used to kind of doing like kind of innovating ways and working with the university academic fields also to try to learn the new knowledge and new practices that can be beneficial for us. We also, if you go on the next slide, Olivier, we also work just before the project with an eco district, participatory eco district. So I put also here quite a few pictures just to let you know that we had a bit of knowledge about participatory practices, but also the Mitacs project really helped us take in this knowledge and just make it better and in a more global approaches during the whole the municipality. So we had the council here, the municipality have a very clear vision of sustainable development and inclusive also practices. And so we really felt the need to have our own sustainable development policies to kind of institutionalize this vision, this will by the council, so it can be stay like in for a long time, not just for the past year. So Olivier, I'm gonna give to you for your time to present the internship.
Thank you, Corinne. So about almost 3 years ago, I've been contacted by the mayor of Petit Saguenay, Philome Lafrance. If you look at the picture on the left, it's the guy with the gray shirt. It's Philome. So we already knew each other from having worked together a couple of times. So Eve heard about Mitacs and saw the opportunity of working with researchers in the development of the two public policies for sustainable development and public participation. So I was already familiar with the Mitacs Accelerate program. It was my fourth grant. So the project development went quite quickly. We made the choice at the time of going with 3 internship units over 18 months, so it would let the student the time to complete the participatory process and the redaction of the two public policies. But we finally benefit of a 4th unit to finish the work. So I recruited a student from a master program here in the university in regional studies. Juliette Charpentier, you can see her on the picture on the right. She had already field experience in public participation, and I already knew Juliette from another program when I was where I was teaching. Juliette was supposed to be here today. She was supposed to make the presentation, but she is giving a formation to local actors here in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean on the subject of public participation. So that is a direct result of her internship. She's working to teach other people how to make participatory processes. Okay, so back in time, she was in France where when I contacted her, and she was already considering enrolling in a master's degree here in Quebec. So the stars were aligned. She had some immigration issues, but finally we could start the project in May 2021. So a bit more than 2 years ago. The objectives of the project, or the needs of Petit Saguenay, were to develop both policies, though a bold policy of citizen participation, but they want it really, they want this policy to go beyond the usual desire of for consultation. And they also wanted a sustainable development policy, but they wanted to do these both policies in a coherent way. That means involving the population in the development of the policies in the most inclusive way possible to hear, and that's our objective, to hear all voices, especially those of people who don't usually participate that much in public consultation. So what did Juliette did in Petit Saguenay? During summer 2021, she was in immersion in the town life of Petit Saguenay. She was involved as an expert resource in the two projects mentioned by Corinne, so the development of the eco district and the workshop of the Fair Knowledge workshop. So she participated in these two projects, and during the fall 2021, she started to plan the development of the process for developing the two public policies to a joint consultation process. Her strategic planning was then approved by the municipal council, so she could start. She developed a partnership with another initiative here in the region, which is called the Grand Dialogue for the Social and Ecological Transition. It's a regional initiative using a prospective approach to define a shared vision and common goals for the future of our territory. So it was natural to work with the Grand Dialogue. So Petit Saguenay became a rural lab for a large-scale citizen consultation process in the region, intending to be inclusive and positive, so oriented towards a shared vision of our future. In the beginning of 2022, Juliette planned all the consultation activities with effort to hear the voices that are usually not heard and to try to encourage everyone to participate. In between February and June 2022, she conducted 19 participatory activities with different persons, publics. So you can see here, it's in French, but you can see like the diversity of the activities that were planned. With all these 19 activities, she could hear the voice of 200 peoples. I don't know if you remember, Corinne said that the population of Petit-Saguenay is about 650 persons, so it's almost 1/3 of the population that participate to these workshop, animation, and activities. It allowed Juliette to collect more than 400 propositions and ideas for the future of Petit-Saguenay. As you can see, all these activities took place in different contexts. We went in the community. We, in fact, instead of inviting people to come to our consultation or activities, we went where the people were. So where they live, where they work, where they study, when they spend their leisure time. So we displaced ourselves to where they were, and that's how we reach our target of 200 people. All the ideas collected in that process were used to define 4 documents. The first one is the shared vision for the future of Petit-Saguenay. It was called Petit-Saguenay of our dream. So it's a text narrative. It's a text that you can read, and it's engaging, mobilizing vision of the future of Petit-Saguenay. Juliette could also develop the 2 policies for public participation and sustainable development with all the ideas and propositions collected. And finally, she realized an action plan for the 2 policies over 5 years. And the citizens were also involved in the synthesis of all these ideas. So that's maybe a step forward in the public participation. So all these documents were adopted by the City Council in January of this year, donc 2023. And finally, there was, so you can see like the cover of the 2 policies here. And finally, there have been a public event to launch, or a kind of vernissage to launch the 2 policies. In Petit-Saguenay, it was the March 1st of this year. And maybe something interesting, they did that with the presence of different artists, like a singer, a storyteller, a visual artist, and improvisation league that communicate their interpretation of the vision of Petit-Saguenay of our dream to the person that were there. So it was really a mobilizing event. I can still hear people talking about that even 6 months after that. So regarding innovation in equity, diversity, and inclusion, we could say that Petit-Saguenay of our dreams approach combined different strategies to encourage more people to participate. So how we did that, Juliette used a playful approach. It was fun going to the activities that we were organizing. And these playful approach can stimulate curiosity and help people engage themselves in the process. We also use a dream-oriented approach that generated attractive and positive activities. We took advantage of the participative culture and the sense of belonging of the citizen of Petit-Saguenay. As Corinne was saying, they have a long history of participation in Petit-Saguenay, so we use that. And finally, we took advantage of the existing social dynamics, all the events, festivals, associations that were already planning activities. So we use that to reach people instead of trying to invite them to our own activities. So that allows us to reach a large diversity of persons as young people that we met in school, seniors that we met in groups, activities, or families that we met at different events and festivals. So quickly, the result of the internship are the two policies, 5 years development action plan, one illustrated collective vision for the future of Petit-Saguenay of our dream, and one research paper on the evaluation of the process. We can also say that the process of creating the Petit-Saguenay of our dream met the municipalities' objective by mobilizing more than a third of the population in unifying activities. And the process also revealed that each type of animation has its strengths and weaknesses, so that it is important to use them in a complementary approach. That's how we reach that many people. We also Juliette identified some factors that were influencing the participation. So we talked about the playful, experimental, territorial, narrative, and dream-oriented approach. We had a great return from the citizens for this. It wasn't really like a traditional approach of consultation, and people really appreciate that. Some activities were less successful. So the advantage here of Mitacs support is that we could experiment. We have room and means to make mistakes, and above all, to learn from that, what doesn't work, to improve the process. Finally, we might say that it needs a lot of efforts, a lot of means to make such a process. So the analysis of the whole process reveals that we need a great deal of energy, human, financial resource. So maybe that's one limitation of the process. The lack of financial and human resources in such small towns can limit the opportunities for replication of the approach, hence the opportunity and importance of the Mitacs internship in our case. So Corinne, I will let you with the last words.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Olivier. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the impacts on our side. So from the inside of our organization, we could see effects on the participants, on the municipality itself, and also on the policy. So quickly, the effects on the person, we had a lot of very great responses from the people that participate in those activities. They really enjoyed it. They really liked it, as Olivier said. They also said they feel it strengthened their feeling of belonging to the municipality. They feel listened to, and also create a more social connection, especially with the renewal of the population. The dynamics of neo-rurality. It's very important to create spaces where new people and local people can meet and can get to know each other, so it can facilitate also the integration of a new population. On the municipality itself, it's as Olivier said, we are a small town, we are a very small team, and so the arrival of Juliette was very much a blessing. I've been studying governance from a very academic point of view, I would say, but when it was time to just create how do you say, a process, create the process and create the activities from scratch. Juliette had the knowledge and the tool to do it from a very, the point of view of the logistics. So what question are we asking? How are we gonna greet people, and how we are gonna make people participate, and in how to do that? She was very, very useful in that sense. So it kind of helped to gain new skills from the whole team. And we also change our organizational culture within the municipalities, which is now everyone is on the same page, the council, but also the administrative team. Everyone knows on the same page as when we do project, which like wherever the size, whether it be like big project or smallest project, we always have new tools now to integrate always participation of the population. There is also more improved citizen confidence into the organization also, like we are being more transparent about it. And we also made, like as Olivier said, many tools. So we did the opening, but also we created a little video. We created, like we give this illustration to the people so they can have many means to understand a bit more the plan of development of the municipality. And also it's very important for us to revitalize our community, to be innovative, and to be innovative, it requires openness from the council, also like investment of resources. So everyone has to be on board as to this process might be a bit longer, but at the end we're going to create a better mobilization of it all. So that was we felt very confident with Juliette and with the team to do so. So now I think we have also the effect on the policy are more we improve the policies with the views of everyone, of course. So now I think we have a very beautiful canvas to work from and to keep this mobilization going, and also to make these policies live in the future. So thank you for your listening.
Merci beaucoup, Corinne et Olivier. Bravo, c'est vraiment inspirant comme recherche. Moi, je vais retenir le Dream Approach Research. J'aimerais beaucoup en savoir un peu plus pour ma part. En tout cas, merci beaucoup pour votre présentation. I would invite every presenters to open their cameras for the questions. We have a few questions. Maybe Jim. Yeah, we have a few questions, and then we'll leave Jean-Philippe make a conclusion. So first of all, thank you very much to all of you to prepare this presentation and come and present it. I think it is going to be very useful to all of our attendees. So thank you again. I just want to let you know that a lot of links from the Can-Will program were put on the chat. So and we will share them by email at the end of this presentation. The first question comes from Gilbert E. that asks to the FCM representatives, what kind of implemented outcomes did you have with municipalities? And there's like a sub question because your research question is quite portrait style.
Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone. I'm going to jump in. So my colleague Stephanie, in a way that we had anticipated, wasn't able to stay with us until the very end of the session. So I have jumped in a way that we anticipated to join this webinar. My name is Sarah Lyons, and I'm part of the Can-Will team at FCM. Anastasia, do you want to jump in on this one and talk a bit about the outcomes, or I can kind of try and share a few things too?
I'm trying to understand what the person was specifically asking about in this case.
Is Gilbert online? Maybe you can specify a little more. So I guess he wants to know how applied, like, is there any cases where you applied the research directly in different municipalities?
Oh, okay.
That's how I understand the question.
Okay, if we are moving from that, like if we are choosing this direction to respond to it. So at this research, as I was mentioning, it was exploratory case study research when we are studying a new phenomenon, and we're really trying to gather and collect information that was previously not gathered and documented. And as a result of this research, we were able to have all that new data specifically about inclusive policies and procedures created for municipal councils. And we were able to, and also as a result, I was able to identify the best practices and what are the best strategies to implement on the lessons learned from the case studies. And the way it was implemented is, so one, FCM, I know they are working and they have developed a 2-pager knowledge sharing information piece, and it's something that they will be utilizing and sharing those concrete examples with the municipalities across Canada that they can learn from others' experience. And another way how it was utilized and implemented is, as I shared in the presentation, there was a photo of me presenting at the workshop at the Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association. I was working with them for a few months as they were very much interested in this research, and specifically we focused on the parental leave family policies for councillors. So with them, I was utilizing this research that was done. And then implementing, I created for them the policy template that was shared with all the municipalities across the province of Saskatchewan that they can use, as well as I've done 2 workshops to share it to municipal leaders of administration and mayors. So these are 2 examples so far, but we are hoping we'll be implementing more this research.
And I might just add to those comments that at a more general level, what we find is doing this work and then kind of celebrating it, sharing it in the ways that were just mentioned, documenting it tends to create its own momentum around interest and adoption. So when we create documentation and recognition for inclusive policies, there tends to then be interest, further engagement, efforts to replicate. And we also find in the other direction that when we have leadership at the FCM or Mitacs or anyone's level to document and celebrate some of these policies, it tends to encourage municipalities to keep going, to get started or to keep going. So there is value just in the kind of action of the research and its sharing itself.
Thank you very much. I have a second question for FCM, but just to maybe redirect the attention a little bit with the study at Petit Saguenay. Olivier, how would you see this kind of research based on really a bottom-up approach? How would you see it deployed in a larger city?
I don't see any limitation for deploying such an initiative in a larger city. Like, what helped us in Petit Saguenay was our connection to all the organizations in the town. Like, we work with the Seniors Association, with the schools, with the administration, the municipal administration, with the farmers too. We didn't talk about the farmers, but we had one of our activities with the farmers. So if you have a local farming organization. So the idea, and that's what we're also observing with the Grand Dialogue, the other initiative I was talking about. They are doing about the same thing on a regional scale. So we, in the region here, we talked in the Grand Dialogue to 9,000 persons in the last 3 years. And we are always working with organizations, associations, businesses. So I think we can use like these ingredients for a more inclusive collaborative process, even in a larger town or in a larger scale. So I think also you have more means, financial and human means in larger cities. So So now I don't see that much limitation for trying like a dream-based consultation in even in Montreal, or if you need help, we're there.
I will contact you, that's for sure. Thank you so much. Maybe in the 1 minute we have left, SCM, one question from Christina was, I was wondering on the FCMs and municipality side, if you could speak about your process to convincing management or not about engaging in the research. And just so you know, Christina, Jean-Philippe will answer the second part of your question after.
Okay.
So 1 minute, please.
Yeah, I'll keep it very short. Thank you for the question. You know, in general, we didn't face a lot of reluctance to get involved in the research. So I wouldn't say we had a lot of convincing to do, but I want to note and that, you know, the municipalities that we approached were ones that were already engaged in the programming we offer in these areas. So from a research design perspective, or for, you know, we already had a very willing pool and a very interested pool of municipalities. So it's definitely wasn't a sort of it was a non-representative group. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much again, everyone. And I'll leave it to Jean-Philippe to conclude our session.
Merci beaucoup, Anaïs. Thank you again, everybody. Let me share my screen one last time. Is everybody seeing my, is that all right? So just to answer that very last question there, people ask us, you know, how do you work with a municipality who hasn't quite fully defined their research questions yet? Well, that, you know, the answer to that, I'd say, is in this slide. Where do you start? Well, you start by, if you want, you can talk to us. We know a little bit about that. We can help you better understand the question, give you a sense for whether or not, in our experience, this is the kind of topic that could be addressed in collaboration with university or college stakeholders, and we can help drive you through the process. This is by no means a necessity. We have students reaching out, as you've heard from Anastasia, reaching out directly to organizations. A lot of initiatives are professor-driven. They're the ones who are going to reach out to organizations to bring them into initiatives. But for municipalities or nonprofits that aren't quite sure how to do this, please, by all means, give us a call. That's what we do. There's 100 of us. We take the calls. We're very proactive. We'll answer, and we'll try to work with you to better understand the question. And we can connect you with university or college stakeholders as well. So on this, in the interest of time, since there's just a few minutes, I did want to take an opportunity to maybe skip over this slide. This was just me telling you about a few programs that we have going on right now. Maybe for Quebec listeners, there is a special initiative right now with FFQSC, whereby your minimum contribution is half of what it would normally be. And for all Canadian municipalities and nonprofits, there is another special call going on right now that's in the process of being finalized that can give you access to additional funding, whereby Mitacs will double its contribution for projects in specific areas, including clean tech and digital or artificial intelligence projects that you might want to run to better understand your data. So that's certainly an opportunity to benefit from. But super quickly, we've all asked you a question when you first registered to the webinar. Is there a project of interest that you're working on or that you would like to work on with a municipality on both sides? And this is the results of the survey. Very exciting. A lot of data here for us to break down, but perhaps mostly, and this goes towards my next slide, we want to get a sense for whether or not a lot of you would be interested in taking part in discussion groups. And the answer on the bottom left, as you see, was either yes or maybe, which is great. So what we think we'd like to do, what we're going to do in the future, after this webinar, we're going to try a little bit of something new that we haven't quite very much done in the past. And we want to, again, with the objective of encouraging, you know, evidence-based and data-driven decision-making within municipalities, we want to create a space in which we will invite you, that will bring together municipalities, nonprofits, academic stakeholders, which will be a space that will allow municipalities, maybe for those that don't quite have that research question well defined yet, well, to come and sit down and meet with a professor, meet with other municipalities across Canada, and push the conversation a little bit more. we're going to create a few different roundtables on different themes, affordable housing, gender parity, or whatnot. So we'll find those top topics that we feel are the best ones that are of most interest. And the next steps after this webinar is that you're going to receive an invitation from us to participate in those roundtables. We're going to ask you ahead of the workshop if there's a specific challenge that you're struggling with in your municipality. If for a professor, because we do get the opposite happening sometimes, are you professors of specific expertise they wish to share, or a project on which they're trying to onboard a municipality. So we're going to compile some of that data. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. And we're going to create that space, create those virtual roundtables. We'll invite you. We'll find a time that hopefully will work for a lot of people. And we'll try and bring some people who are interested really in having specific conversations on specific topics related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And hopefully this will help you move forward with your thought process, and hopefully will give you an opportunity to work together in the future. And if we have a chance to support those projects with Mitacs funding, then we'll be glad for that. So I will follow up with all of you today, and just again to thank you very much for participating. We're going to send you a few links on the different things you've heard about today, the Canwell Initiative and the Petit Saguenay policy documents that were published, and we look forward to seeing you at a future webinar. I do want to take a moment to thank our funders. We're funded by Government of Canada and all provincial governments across Canada. And again, thank you. And on this, I will leave you with one last poll asking you if you would like us to get in touch with you in the future. And this poll will ask you to leave your email. Merci beaucoup, much appreciated. And we hope to see you at our next webinar. Is Anaïs, Fatima, you confirm that the poll is open? 100% sure. If I click the next button there, I think it should be. Just wanna open it again myself. It is, huh? Yes, it is. Okay, very good. Okay, so I think there's still just a few participants who are leaving the emails. Thank you so very much, Corinne, Anastasia, Fatima, Angeline, Catherine, Kim. You guys were amazing. It was, I think it was good.
Great, JP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Angeline. Okay, I'm going to stick around for a few more seconds just to make sure the poll is still open. Corinne, encore merci beaucoup, très apprécié.
Merci, c'était super. Bonne journée.
Je pense que les gens ont bien aimé. Merci beaucoup.
Ouais, super.
Au revoir.
Thank you,
Okay.
Anastasia.